Love you.
But like that is like so many of my friendships. Like I will like not see people for like 2 years, but we've been like texting so much that like my good friend Janice, she's in Berlin, and like we are like texting constantly. We'll just like FaceTime for like 2 hours while we're cleaning our apartments or whatever, and then she comes into town and immediately just like gets in bed and we start smoking weed, and it's like nothing ever happened. Like no, it's like we had just been hanging out every day forever. And it's like that's how like every single friend, like all of my friendships are based in like being really annoying texters, like texting like 20 bubbles instead of just one like long text, and like constant. Like,
Yeah.
and like that's like, you know, like me and Natasha, even like who's been like my best friend since high school, like mostly text. Like I'll like go over to her house and hang out or whatever, but when we hang out it's the same as when we text. We're just like complaining about things or gossiping about things or whatever, and like laying in bed.
What is this? You lie in bed with your friends?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, it's the best thing ever. Okay. Is this embarrassing to admit? I don't know. I have a bed. It's a California King. I love my bed. My bed is like the most important piece of furniture to me and always has been. I do all of my best work in bed. I like make the bed every day. I put a cover over the bed so that I'm not like sitting on my blankets or anything. And I like do all of my work. I have a California King that goes up and down like a hospital bed.
Oh my God.
I literally use it as a bed at night and then as like a couch/day bed during the day. So I'll like flip it up and then I'll like put a nice cover on it, and I'll put like some like, you know, pillows like a couch, and I'll use it as a couch. And then at night I flip it down and go to bed.
Who makes this thing? It's like a Craftmatic adjustable?
I don't even know. It's like some startup or something, but like Tyler just like surprised me with it, and I was like, this is the best thing I've ever owned in my life. Like, I mean, if we ever get divorced, God forbid, like I will go to court for this bed.
It'll be the one thing you take out with you. Did it
Yeah,
come
I'll
in a
be
box?
like,
Was it
keep
one
the
of those
bomb.
mattresses that came in a box?
Was it? Yeah, I think it was one of the mattresses that came in a box, but the frame is like a whole different thing from this. Like not the same company as the mattress. It's like a nice wooden bed frame that doesn't even like look like a hospital bed, but then it just goes up and down.
Do you have like a remote control, or do you have to manually adjust?
Yeah, I totally have a remote control. Maybe I
Oh my
can
God.
even show it to you.
So wait, are you in that bed right now? Is that your bed?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
This is where I do everything. I do all my work. I do all my podcasting. See?
All you're hanging out with friends.
Remote.
Wow. I'm behind the times. Again,
Maybe
this is
this
a
shows
generational
what
difference. My bed just sits there. It's just like a bed.
I mean, look, Brad, everyone's bed just sits. I don't know a single person who has a bed like mine. Like
but I don't have a remote control for my bed, is the point.
No, nobody does besides me because I'm insane.
All right. So what else we got in the mailbag?
So in the mailbag, the next one we have is from Lay or Lee. Again, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name.
I think it's Lee.
Lee, yeah, okay. So let's go with Lee.
Lay? I don't think it's Lay.
Look, a lot of people have strangely pronounced names. Who know?
All
People
right.
call me Myra constantly, so you know we'll go with Lee for now. Lee says, "Enjoyed the new podcast with Mira. Old grouchy Browd. You hear that? Old grouchy Browd. Old grouchy Brad was good company while I painted today, and I am older than you, Gen X." Lee.
Whoa. See, this is what's interesting. We have like the demographic appeal of a Gen Xer and a millennial talking about culture is wide, because if Lee is older than Gen X, then what is that? What's the generation
Boomer.
above Gen X? Is it a boomer?
I think it's a boomer, right?
Or like what's Barack Obama? There's like a little generation.
Barack Obama's Gen X, isn't he? Oh, there's a
No.
little generation in between.
Yeah, it's like the silent generation. No, that's like Biden is the silent generation, but there is like a generation in between boomer and Gen X that I think.
Boomer's pretty old. I guess Biden's not a boomer, but only by a couple years.
Yeah, I forget I think he's the silent generation, but
we have somebody who I guess is older than both of us listening to the podcast. So I appreciate that. Thank you for enjoying it. And I'm glad that we can communicate pop culture.
That's right. And resonate with the masses. So then, wait, I think I have the next one here. It's Bert.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who is quoting us. He's quoting us to us. So this is Bert quoting us, where he says, quote, "We're professional hosts," she says, with a comforter over her head.
And I've just admitted that I do this whole podcast like in my fucked up bed that goes up and down and all of this shit in like, so like, yeah, I really am a professional. And how dare you, Bert?
Like Mira, it's like your Craftmatic adjustable sick bed. That's where you
Yeah.
operate your life is
Look,
from that.
it's what fucking Proust did. He wrote all of In Search of Lost Time in bed. So,
Yeah.
I'm what I'm saying is I'm a lot like Proust.
I was going to say you're operating in a grand tradition.
That's right. A grand tradition of like literary depressed people.
Lexi says, I'm obsessed with both the episode and the episode art. So I think she's probably referring to your like Mimi.
Thank you, Lexi.
Mira does this where she put tattoos on my face. And
I did. They were Post Malone tattoos. I don't know if anyone noticed, but I did put Post Malone tattoos on Brad's face. Thank you so much, Lexi. I'm very proud of my beautiful art, and it will be in a museum soon. We've been contacted by the Met.
All right. So I think that does it for today's mailbag. If you are out there and you're listening and you have thoughts or questions or feedback of any kind, you can email.
Compliments.
Yeah, compliments. If you want to lavish us with praise, you can email us at letters@otherppl.com. You can also DM us on Twitter or Instagram. But if you do slide into our DMs, you have to be polite, right? Mm-hmm. Especially with Mira. You can be rude to me, but polite to Mira.
You can be really mean to Brad, but you will hurt my feelings if you're mean to me. So at least direct it at Brad.
All right. So Mira, what is in the news? Like what kind of pop culture subject matter are we going to try to dissect today?
Well, let's start with the first one, which is a quick story that I know very little about, but I learned from my best friend's husband, who is a big fan of the baseball team, the Mets. Now, here's what I know about the Mets. They have a very dedicated following. People really love the Mets. So if you like the Mets, you fucking like the Mets. But they lose constantly. I asked Spencer, who's my friend's husband, how often the Mets lose, and he said about 50% of the time. And I don't know how baseball works, but that seems like a lot of times to lose. Okay.
I actually know something about this. The Mets.
Do you?
Yeah, the Mets last won the World Series in 1986, and I remember this because it was my fucking childhood, and they had a great team with Dwight Gooden and Darryl Strawberry in the early part of their career, and then have essentially not been very good since, with a couple of playoff years probably in there as an exception.
Oh, okay.
But the thing about it is that the Yankees had a run, especially during the Joe Torre era in like the late 90s, or maybe early aughts with Derek Jeter and all those teams that were great. Yankees won like 4 or 5 World Series, maybe more. And so the New York Mets have sort of I think, and the Mets fans have a kind of complex.
It's like a personality thing, from what I understand. They have these mascots. It's kind of like a cultural thing, less than like we want our team to, like, we know our team's going to win kind of thing.
Well, okay, here's a parallel. This is another way to think about it, is that I think, like, I know for a fact that in Chicago, the Cubs are like the North Side team and the White Sox are the South Side team. And so socioeconomically, the South Side of Chicago tends to be worse off than the North Side.
Oh, okay. So
the North Side is like Lakeshore and, people with money and all this stuff. And they like the Cubs. This is a generalization, but there's truth in it. And then I think with the Mets are the more working class team, whereas the Yankees are Manhattan. Well, I guess the Yankees are in the Bronx, but right? Isn't that where Yankee Stadium is? But
I have no idea.
Anyway, I feel like the Yankees are the more like well-to-do.
They're both New York, right?
Both New York, but maybe the Mets are the more long-suffering team with a more working class fan base. Maybe the Lakers and the Clippers are the same kind of dichotomy. Yeah, that's what I was
going to say. Is like, I don't really know about Clippers fans, but maybe they're the same, where it's like they'll really be like, no, like the Clippers are the team, even though like the Lakers are clearly the better team in terms of playing basketball.
Well, I mean, it's like there's got to be some like bit of masochism to you if you live in New York and you have the option of cheering for the Yankees or the Mets. And you choose the Mets, or you live in LA and you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to hang on to the Clippers and watch them get their asses beat for 20 years or whatever it's been.
I don't know shit about baseball or basketball, but that much is clear to me. Like, I'm not a guy. If someone asked me, I would never say I'm a Clippers fan. I would always say I'm a Lakers fan, even though I don't know shit about basketball and I never ever watch it.
Yeah, I can't stand any fucking LA team. I'm from the Midwest. I'm a Milwaukee fan. But what is going on with the Mets that has brought it to your attention?
So basically, like the Mets seem to be very personality based. I don't know. So for some reason that I don't fully understand, well, okay, let me start at the beginning. This news story came to my attention because I got a text from my best friend's husband saying, "Can you crochet me a Grimace toy?" And I have been known to crochet Grimace. So Grimace is the mascot for McDonald's. He kind of looked like a big purple chicken nugget, and early on in the 90s, it was like
a big purple chicken nugget.
I mean, yeah, he's like just kind of this big purple
butt plug
blob with he looks like a butt plug kind of. Yeah, he's like he looks like a big purple butt plug, and he's got like little hands like this, and like little like his hands like kind of just come out of his body like that, and he's got like fucked up feet, and his eyes are all googly all over the place. He looks stoned.
Why do they call him Grimace? I'm now wondering. Does he? Because I don't feel like he has a grimace on his face.
No, I've never understood it. Why the fuck did they call him that? And it like back in the day, it would be like the Hamburglar, Grimace, and like I guess Ronald McDonald. Like those were like the main dudes. Like
they had like a cast. This was my youth as well. I remember those. I think they're less prominent in today's.
So era. Like McDonald's like nearly dropped Grimace because like of course he's so fucking weird. Like what the fuck kind of mascot is that? I don't know. Last year they did the Grimace shake. I don't know if you remember, but it was a bright purple shake that made, from what I recall, everybody puke. So it was just like you drink it, purple vomit constantly, and yet people were still buying the drink. There was just vomit, 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 nightmare. So very bad PR for Grimace, right? So now, for God knows what reason, the Mets had Grimace throw the first pitch at Citi Field.
No idea why. Just let's have Grimace. Just they probably like the real person probably couldn't make it. So.
Yeah, right. They were just like, here's Grimace as a replacement. I mean, like they seem to like big mascots. They've got like a baseball mascot. I don't understand it.
Fans like that. They like when you bring out like a big mascot out on the field.
I don't know. It's like, they're drunk or something. But so they brought out Grimace to throw the first pitch, and ever since then they have won every single game that they've played. So it's like,
wait, and just when you say he threw the first pitch, there's like a ceremonial first pitch at professional baseball games. Where they'll bring out like a celebrity to like throw the first pitch out, and everybody cheers.
Well, Grimace is a celebrity.
I guess so. And then the Mets have gone on a winning streak since then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, on like I guess what is like an abnormal winning streak for the Mets. Like they like winning like I think 6 games in a row since for the first time since like the 80s or something like that. Like they like don't. So they've basically decided, okay, Grimace is ours. Grimace is our good luck charm. We all love Grimace. They've started wearing like fucking like shirts, like not jerseys, but whatever baseball players wear with like Grimace on the back instead of their names. Like they're like going all in for Grimace. And I mean, I guess the Mets have just taken Grimace from McDonald's. They're printing Grimace on shirts and shit like that. I don't know. And my friend's husband is so insane about it that he has commissioned me to crochet him a toy of Grimace because I've been known to crochet little toys for my nieces and nephews.
That feels like it's going too far. When you
I totally agree.
Yeah. When you start asking, like I think as a sports fan, and I think especially as a baseball fan, baseball players and baseball fans can, I think, be particularly superstitious because it's such a streaky sport and it's such a long season and there's so many games.
And there's kind of like some amount of, there's like more chance to it than a lot of games. It feels like it's like more like, I don't know. Basketball.
I love watching. I watch a ton of baseball. I'm a huge Brewers fan. Yes, because I'm working in here and I'll have it on mute, but I'll have the game on. I watch almost every game.
That's what I do with Real Housewives.
For like, you know, from April until September or October, they basically play every day. So it's this kind of constant. They play 162 games. 162 games. That's the beauty of baseball. Yeah.
Is that like normal for sports or just baseball?
No, it's just baseball. 162 games is very much just baseball. And so people sometimes knock baseball for not being as physically demanding as like football or
But they're doing
basketball.
162 games.
That's it. They play literally almost every day. They play like 28 out of 30 days a month.
That's psychotic.
It's psychotic.
That makes me upset because I firmly feel that sports is Real Housewives for men. And therefore, Real Housewives should be airing that often. I deserve Real Housewives every day for however long the baseball season is.
Yeah. Well, I think, so the superstition is there. And I get that part of it, but there is something childish about a bunch of grown adult fans.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the fun of it, is like that they get to be childish about it. They get to be like, Grimace is our good luck charm or whatever. Grimace, who also, before this, was adopted by the gay community as a gay icon and shows up to gay pride every year.
Wait,
Grimace,
really?
Yeah, Grimace is always on a float at gay pride since like 2 years ago.
They just decided Grimace was gay.
Yeah, they're like, Grimace is a gay icon. He just is now. He's ours. And he is like the star of Pride.
Well, this is more interesting. I didn't realize there was this layer, but people, like communities, are claiming Grimace.
Yeah, multiple different communities are claiming Grimace. And it's like none of them are even fighting with each other. Like the gay community is not like, well, Grimace is ours. They can't do the first spin. Like the baseball people aren't like, well, Grimace is ours. He can't be gay. It's just like everyone loves Grimace.
I guess so. Maybe we can claim him. But
yeah, Grimace is ours now. He's the podcast guy.
All right. Well, good for the Mets, I guess. They're on a winning streak.
Good for Grimace, honestly.
Last thing I'll say is, just so you know, like as a sports fan, I'm not a jersey wearer. Like I think there's a part of me that's like, no, that's childish. That's for kids.
If you're not like above the age of like 13, it's not really acceptable.
Like all these grown-ups walking around in jerseys. I'm like, no, I don't get all dressed up in costumes.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I want to wear a shirt or a jersey for like a player that's just like really bad that nobody knows about, and just be like, yeah, like this is like like a bench warmer player. Just be like, yeah, like this is my favorite basketball player. Like I love him so much. And people are like, who the fuck is that guy?
Like when I was in high school and like early college, maybe a little bit out of college, I wore a Don Majkowski jersey. He was the quarterback of the Packers.
No idea who that is.
He was the what was his name? The Magic Man, the Polish Rifle.
How many sports do you watch?
Baseball, football, basketball, and then I'll watch like the Euro Cup soccer and World Cup soccer and Olympic soccer. But I can't follow like the professional soccer leagues in Europe. It's like too much for me to process.
Isn't it wild how like, because I've tried to figure out football and it is basically impossible. And to be clear, I got to the highest level of math in high school and I got all A's. Like math was an easy subject for me. And I tried to figure out the math of football and it makes no fucking sense. And the fact that so many Americans understand football, like, are they just like using too much of their brain to understand football and then they can't do other stuff? Because it's some of like the dumbest people on earth understand football way more than I do. And it's incredibly complicated.
No, like one of the most persuasive and sticky, like one of the stickiest essays I ever read. Like not to get, I'm starting to get into territory that's maybe too intellectual for this show.
Yeah, don't get literary.
But I read an essay about American sports fandom, and I think it was especially applied to the white working class, though it's not specific to them entirely. But it was just basically like you have all these like white working class men in particular who are devoting so much of their intellectual energy to memorizing the statistics and names and like training camp dramas of all of these professional football players, just to use football as an example.
Yeah.
And meanwhile are paying like absolutely no attention to like the politicians who are running their lives and legislating their lives. And if you took like a quarter of the brain energy that these people are applying to sports fandom and applied it to like some sort of
anything else,
but like
even just like a talent, even a skill, like just like fixing cars or learning how to knit or anything, they would be like a pro at it. Like they could be like the best seamstresses in the world if they just like focused on it instead of sports. But I guess sports
listen, I'm guilty of this. Like I know a lot about sports.
It's wild how like dudes like you just now, I'll be like, oh, what sports do you watch? And they're like football, basketball, baseball, hockey, sometimes soccer, sometimes Olympic soccer. Yet, if I'm like, well, I watch Real Housewives of New York, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Real Housewives of Potomac, Real Housewives of Atlanta, people are like, you're fucking insane. But it's kind of the same time commitment. Actually, less, because there's only one series and it doesn't happen every single year like that.
I think my sports fandom actually ramped up during the last 4, 5, 6 years as things have gotten like increasingly insane. I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna watch sports and like it's like peace. It's a way of piecing out and just
I
like,
wish I liked sports.
yeah. I
It
mean, it's
seems nice.
everybody's got their thing. It's like watching a game. It's a form of reality TV, I will argue.
It is. And
With
like there's like issues between players that I've heard of like, there's like, oh, you know, competitions between players, or like one player fucked the other player's wife, and that's like a thing. Like that's very Real Housewives. It's like very much the
occasionally,
same.
I love that these are the narratives that you've glommed onto, but like, yeah,
Occasionally, but also it's like, you're watching the Lakers or whatever, and like Steph Curry is gonna make a shot and then turn around and not even see it get in the hoop and still know that it got in the hoop, and like no other player can do that. Like there's
yeah.
like these weird little things that about players that are like, it's very Real Housewives. Men don't want to admit it, but it is personality based.
Yeah, no, I think there is an element of that to it. So anyway, Grimace is like a talisman for the New
Yeah.
York Mets, and
Gay icon,
maybe for
talisman.
all of us. He's a gay icon. He's a talisman, and he is a spirit animal of
We should
Brad and
maybe
Mira.
start worshiping Grimace. We'll talk about that.
You sort of look, the way you're dressed, you sort of look like you kind of Grimace shaped, right?
That's right. Grimace is this shape. That's exactly right. This is like this, and then like going out. That's exactly how he's. And then he's got like little hands, like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
what else? What else do we got?
For people who aren't watching the podcast, by the way, I just put a blanket over myself and did an impression of Grimace.
Very convincing of impression.
So the next two topics actually are ones that I'm very excited to talk about. And I think you're very excited about this next topic, Kate Middleton update.
Yeah.
So, okay. Brad, why don't I give the foundation and then you can say what happened this week.
Right.
The foundation is that Kate hadn't been seen since Christmas. On Christmas night, she was picked up by emergency ambulances. And everybody was like, what the fuck? The Royal said that it was planned abdominal surgery. Didn't specify what the abdominal surgery was. Then we didn't see her again for months and months. And everyone was like, Kate's dead. What the fuck is going on? So then the Royals release a picture of Kate and her kids that is so clearly AI that like her kids have like 6 fingers and shit like that. It's just like so fucked up looking and weird. And so then everybody was like, okay, now Kate's like really dead. They're like releasing AI photos. What the fuck? Then they release a video of Kate that is also AI, or is green screen or something, because you can see on her hand. And like this made me feel like a tinfoil hat maniac, but like her wedding ring disappears on her hand and the background in the video.
Yeah.
And so in the video, Kate says that she has cancer and that she didn't specify what cancer. She said cancer, and that she was getting preventative chemotherapy, which doesn't exist. You get chemo if you have cancer and you don't if you don't. And it's just, that's not a thing. So we hadn't seen her since then. Nothing from the royal family. And then this week, Brad, if you'd like to.
Well, she showed up at some event for King Charles.
Yeah.
And
King Charles
I feel like she looked like herself. She's always very thin.
Really thin.
But she's always really thin.
Thinner than normal. It was scary.
Okay, yeah. Well, but
her no boobs, just like so like she looked emaciated.
But also like really like beautifully turned out, like beautiful outfit and makeup. She looked healthy-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, probably healthier than both of us look right now.
Yeah, that's not saying much, but
she's got like a team. She has a team.
Yeah,
like, dressing her.
My question is, okay, so she went through chemotherapy. She said so. She's had cancer. Her hair is fake. It has to be. If she went through chemo that recently, she couldn't grow her hair back all
well. But I don't think all cancer treatments cause your hair. All chemos don't cause your hair to fall out. There are some chemos that
radiation doesn't necessarily, but chemo pretty much always does.
Oh, it
at
does.
least make your hair like much thinner. It'll at least make it really brittle. And like wig technology now is so advanced that we would not be able to tell if she's wearing a wig at all. Period. And so I think she was wearing a wig both in the video where she said she had cancer and at this parade.
But wait, was the video real? It was real, but it was AI'd, or it was real, but it was adjusted or edited, or
That's like a fucking mystery. I mean, my going theory, and I don't know if this is true or not, but my going theory is that it was a green screen. Like, I feel like she was maybe in a hospital environment and they didn't want to show that. And so maybe they green screened her, and like that would make sense with her ring because it's Princess Diana's ring, so it's a sapphire, it's blue, which like has a little bit of green to it. And if you're on a green screen and something accidentally matches the color behind you, it will like disappear in the video. So that's like the most innocent explanation that I can think of.
Jesus Christ, you've really put some thought into this. That's a
I
good
mean,
theory.
don't lie, Brad. So have you. We've texted about this for hours on end.
I know, but I don't think I had that level of insight. I think that's actually a pretty plausible explanation for the ring disappearing, because that fucked with my head. I was like,
It
I'm
fucked with my head too.
I'm ready to believe this video, and it seems like, wow, you go to all the trouble of making this video, especially after the AI debacle with that family
Right.
photo. But then
I
when
was
the ring
ready to let it
disappeared,
go.
yeah, I
And
was
then
ready
the
to let it
ring.
go. And then the ring disappeared. And I was like, well, now they're fucking with us again.
Right. And the background, like it was very subtle, but it looped. It was a video that looped. At like one point in the very end of the video, you can see there's like a glitch and the video starts looping again, the same way that, it wasn't an infinite loop video, which like is just such a stupid mistake to make. But I guess they're not very tech savvy there or something.
Yeah. They probably set up like a green screen and a bench and like put her on it.
Exactly. But so like what the fuck happened? Like why, like okay, she had cancer. Why emergency ambulances? Why didn't they just say she had cancer when she disappeared and everybody was like, what the fuck? Why haven't they told us what kind of cancer she has? Like, why did she say she's not out of the woods yet when she clearly looks healthy and okay? Is she still getting chemo? Like, what was the surgery?
I
Like,
mean, I don't know enough about cancer to know if it's abdominal in nature, then it
uterine
would be,
cancer?
I mean, uterine or, what do you call it?
Like bowel cancer?
I mean, something like that. But I mean, like there's uterine cancer.
Esophageal, maybe?
No, but what's the
Bladder
ovarian?
cancer? Oh, or ovarian cancer? Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe something like that.
Yeah, but that's like ovarian cancer. That seems like you would say that and then be like, doing charities for ovarian cancer and shit. That's so weird not to do that.
it is. I mean, I get wanting some degree of medical privacy, but you are a royal. You're a public
Yeah, would the
person.
royals even allow that? Like, I feel like it's not even her choice.
I just feel like basic information is not too much to ask for a public that has some sort of interest in these people. They're in a public office.
And they're
So,
tax funded. They're funded by taxpayers. So,
right.
like, of course, everybody has like a right to know what's going on. Like, that's like the same way with if a politician, like if we had a congressperson who disappeared for months on end and they're like, she has cancer, I don't know, she's gone, like we'd be like, what the fuck? And
Well, and
like,
I feel like this about all, like, obituaries in general, like not to be overly morbid, but like it's in the same realm.
yeah,
Oftentimes when I read an obituary, they'll be like, so and so died, we miss this person, they lived a great life, blah blah blah. If you want to donate to this charity in their name, that would be great. It's like that's the obituary, and they don't give the fucking cause of death. And
and
I'm
like
like,
if you're like a private citizen, then like okay, but then you're not having an obituary. It just
no,
seems
no,
like
no. If you're a private citizen, let me know how you fucking died. I want to
yeah.
know. Like if when I
I mean,
die
I'm
and
with.
they
I don't
write,
know if it's offensive, but I'm with you.
like it's not too much to just tell people what the fucking cause of death was. Why are you hiding this information?
Yeah,
Like people, like the first thing you want to know if you're anything like me when you read an obituary is what happened.
yeah. It's
Why
like
is
why
this
am I reading
person?
this obituary if not to figure out what happened?
Yes. Like why are you posting an obituary and not telling the cause of death? It's not even
Yeah,
that complicated. Just be like, oh, he had cancer and died, and we're
yeah.
really
Or
sad.
even like he killed himself, like he like was a victim of suicide. That's all you have to say. You don't have to say, oh, he did it. You
Yeah.
don't have to whatever. Like it's when my great grandpa died, and he was a terrorist for the IRA. And that's a whole other thing to get into, but
Jesus Christ.
which is why, and he was also a screenwriter, which is why he got an obituary in the New York Times. Um, and in his obituary,
What was his
the
name?
person was that
What's his name?
his name is William. Wallace Norton. So you can look him up and find his Wikipedia, anyone who's listening. And I recommend it. It's very interesting. He wasn't a good terrorist. He was pretty bad at it, and he got caught and had to go get asylum in Nicaragua. And when he was in Nicaragua, his obituary revealed that somebody entered his house, tied up him and his wife. My great-grandpa got free of his ties and shot him to death, the home invader. We had no fucking idea about this at all until we read it in the New York Times obituary. We don't know how they got that information. I guess maybe from records or something like that. We were like, what the fuck? Like, we all called him Pretty Grandpa. I don't know why. That's what we all called him.
Pretty
we were all
Grandpa?
Like, Pretty Grandpa. Yeah.
Like pretty as in like beautiful, or pretty as in like kind, like a lot?
I think pretty as in beautiful. Like, I think it was like a joke. Like, I'm a beautiful grandpa. I'm a pretty grandpa. And we just picked it up when we were kids, like, or something.
All right.
We have weird names for everyone in my family. But, like, I feel like that is a good obituary, in that, like, he just died from old age, and like they're revealing some shit that even his family didn't know. That's kind of the point of an obituary, right? It's like you learn shit about the person. If you're either gonna reveal their death, or you're gonna reveal something they did in life that nobody knew about. Otherwise, what's the point?
When I die, you should write my obituary and say that I was a terrorist, in addition to being a podcaster.
It will be hard to make the Wikipedia. They really ask for a lot of citations.
He was an assassin.
He was an assassin.
A literary podcaster.
Remind me to tell you one day about how my grandpa thought he was being tracked by the FBI his whole life, and we told him he was crazy, and then he was right.
Jesus Christ. All right. So Kate Middleton, I mean, I feel like here's where I'm at with it personally.
Mm-hmm.
Confused about the early stages of all this. Like, maybe if we're going to choose to believe in the better angels of people,
which, like, are we with the royal family? I mean,
it's pretty hard, but it's like, let's just say they were really emotionally distraught. She was unwell, had like abdominal trouble, and then like maybe had some sort of medical emergency that got her into the hospital, and then they diagnosed it then. Let's just say that's true.
Sure.
And then they were in such shock and so like crestfallen and scared and all the stuff that comes with a really serious diagnosis, that they just botched the handling of it because they were trying to protect her. They wanted to protect her health. She was saying she needed time and space. I kind of get that. It's like a lot of pressure, and you like all you want is to be stress-free if you're dealing with a serious illness.
Would the royal family listen to that? Because she's not really in charge.
That's right. But I'm just saying.
Still always do what also another very weird aspect to me is that the King Charles is sick with like ass cancer. He just came out and he was like, my butthole has cancer or whatever the fuck. And like, everyone is like, I'm so sorry. So like, there's a protocol to follow here. Obviously that the royal family did follow with Charles.
That they didn't follow with Kate.
And they didn't follow it with Kate. Yeah, and it's so like, if the king can say like, my asshole has cancer, then like Kate can say whatever kind of illness she has, no matter how embarrassing it is, and people will feel bad for her.
And by the way, I feel like if you have a British accent, you can say my asshole has cancer and it'll still sound kind of good. Yeah.
It's true. It doesn't sound like me saying my asshole has cancer. No. It's not the same.
Yeah. Maybe if you have like a Cockney accent, it's not quite as smooth, but if you have that Patrician.
It's funny though.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could do accents, and I would impress you all with my.
Man, I'm not going to attempt because I will embarrass myself even further.
Just my asshole has cancer.
My asshole. What is that? That was like James Bond.
Cancer. Asshole cancer. All right. So I mean, like, listen. Well wishes to Kate. Assuming she really is dealing with this illness, I'm gonna believe her. She has cancer. She's fighting it. She's out in public. There seems to be.
She looks thin and sick. I guess she probably is sick. I can't imagine anything else. I feel like William wants to divorce her also, and they're maybe like waiting until she's like better, and they've had like enough time to like where it's okay for William to divorce her because she's not actively having cancer.
Or maybe that was part of it. Like they were really having marital trouble when the diagnosis happened, which like upended everything. Because they have three young kids. I mean, like all of a sudden mom is really sick and mom and dad are divorcing. That's like too much for the kids.
True. Very true.
So maybe the cover up and everything is just like them recalibrating and being like, okay, we have to fix our relationship, or at least like be on good terms while I fight this, because the kids would be like way disrupted and traumatized by like the double whammy. That actually makes sense.
Publicity wise, also, I think like that would be like not good publicity for like how they're parenting their kids. You know, they like are always so like proud about how like they're such a good family and they're parenting their kids nicely, and then like William leaving his wife while she has cancer is not a good look.
No,
like especially for the upcoming king.
It's not just not a good look; it's an impossible look.
Yes,
like for somebody like a royal who's got such a concern with PR and like
he
a public
cannot divorce his wife while she has cancer. He cannot.
No.
And maybe they were like, when she was gone, they were kind of just hoping that the cancer would go away, that like she would be able to get over the cancer in a couple of months, and then they could just come out as normal and like not say anything about the cancer maybe, and then William could divorce her and feel okay about it. And then it didn't get healed in time, and they're like, okay, fuck.
Right. We got to like redo all this. So
men love leaving women when they have cancer.
You know, who did I talk to?
There was that fucking politician. Who was it?
Newt Gingrich.
Yeah. Newt left his wife when she had cancer.
No, but I think I talked to, oh God, I always do this where it's somebody on my show wrote a novel, and it's really good novel too.
If you're the guest that Brad is talking about, please email us.
It's Anne Enright, The Wren, wonderful novel. But she wrote, part of her book was about an old, like, fictional Irish poet, like a grand old man of Irish letters who left his cancer-stricken wife. So
it's really common. I looked at a statistic once and I was like shocked. Like if you get cancer, like your husband there's a really good chance he's leaving you.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, fucked.
All right, what else we got? So Kate Middleton, I feel like we sort of know where we stand. She's
alive.
She's alive. We're choosing to believe that she's being honest about this cancer, and we don't quite know exactly what's going on with the marriage, but they're putting on a good face.
I'm choosing to believe they're lying about probably everything, but I have no idea.
All right. Yeah, I guess eventually we'll find out, probably.
Yeah, maybe if we're lucky. Well, our next topic is I'd like to say it's more upbeat, but it sure isn't. So Kevin Spacey went on to Piers Morgan. And let me just be clear, I hate both of those men so fucking much. I hate their voices and their faces, and they're just like so... for some reason, I almost hate Piers Morgan more. But anyways, Kevin Spacey told Piers Morgan that he has lost his home and he owes millions of dollars. Now, I don't really understand where...
Like legal fees and stuff, or
I guess, yeah, probably like legal fees. It seems like, let's see, I lost my home and I owe millions. He said he broke down into tears as he revealed that he's destitute and so deep in a hole that he's about to lose his home. I guess it's like, yeah, he's contemplated filing for bankruptcy on multiple occasions. It seems like it's mostly legal debt from all of the many fucking lawsuits that he's been in, and maybe debt from like paying people to murder so many of the men that he's had lawsuits with.
Well, so, okay, for people who have no idea what you're talking about, like what has Kevin Spacey been like, what happened with him?
So Kevin Spacey, famous actor, we all know who Kevin Spacey is. American Beauty, House of Cards. He is a serial rapist to a degree that is like completely fucking insane. There are hundreds of men who have very similar stories about Kevin Spacey, and they all sort of involve him whipping his dick out, him grabbing guys' dicks, him forcing himself on people, him raping people. I mean, it's just like
fully raping people, or is it
fully
just like...
raping? Yeah. Like there are people who took him to court over fully rape and harassment, repeated harassment. He'll harass people over the course of years. He'll not talk to them and then talk to them again and offer them roles and all of this stuff.
Using it as bait, to try to...
Yeah, like Harvey Weinstein style, trying to be well, do you want to roll in Hollywood? Then suck my dick or whatever, basically. And so did you watch the Kevin Spacey documentary on HBO?
I'm like, I finished the first, it's two parts, and I finished the
Mhm.
first part, and I'm like, I think a quarter of the way through the second part. But before we get there, I have a personal story about this.
Oh, please.
So this was years ago. This was, Mira, you probably were 5 years old when this happened. So I
So
was
it
in,
was 97?
yeah, I was getting out of college, and a buddy of mine who went to Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia, was finishing up undergrad there. And I ended up going on a big road trip with him, right? Because I hiked the Appalachian Trail, which everybody who listens to my show knows about. But we were hanging out, and I spent like 3 weeks living in Savannah at his apartment and just sort of, I don't know what we were doing. It was just like post college, like dicking around.
Drugs.
Drugs, yeah.
You can say it.
Going out in Savannah. It was beautiful, beautiful town. But anyway, at some point, I forget the exact timeline. He tells me that, the girl he was seeing at the time was waiting tables, and she goes into this restaurant that she works at one night, and she waits on Kevin Spacey
Oh,
and
man.
like his assistant or something like that. And then, they're just chit-chatting, and they become friendly, and he's like, "What are you doing? Like, where do you hang out? We want to hang out." Because like Kevin Spacey was shooting a movie in Savannah. Midnight in the
Okay.
Garden of Good and Evil is the name of the movie. And so she ends up being like, "Well, she was kind of like, why are you asking me this? Like, I'm just this waitress at this
Yeah.
restaurant." But she's like,
I'm female. What do you...
"Yeah, I'm going back over to my boyfriend's apartment afterwards, and like, we're probably just going to smoke some weed and like watch a movie or something." And she's like, "You guys can come if you want, and like have a drink." And he's like, "Okay."
Oh, my God.
And so,
That
and I
lines
hope
up
I'm
with,
I hope I'm getting this story right, but it's something like this. And
it
then,
lines up with the stories everyone else has told. It's
right.
similar.
No, I mean, and I have no doubt at all that some version of this happened. I
Yeah.
know, my buddy he would never lie to me like this. But
Yeah.
basically, Kevin Spacey and his assistant show up at this apartment that they're living in
A
Savannah. Like,
female assistant or a male assistant?
probably, I don't know, probably a male. Who
Okay.
knows? But and they have weed. Kevin Spacey, I mean, everybody has weed, but like, they're coming over to smoke weed. And I think Kevin Spacey brought like a VHS tape, because this was how long ago this was,
Well,
of himself hosting Saturday Night Live. Or like maybe they got high, and then like he was talking about it, and they were like, "Can we watch it?" And like he brought it in, and they all got high and watched Kevin Spacey hosting Saturday Night Live with Kevin Spacey in their fucking room, like in their,
that's
like,
so fucking weird.
yeah, in their college apartment. And then,
Why would any why would Kevin Spacey even that's so fucking weird.
yeah. And so then at some point they're partying, they're drinking, they're smoking weed. My buddy's roommate, the male roommate, goes into the kitchen to like make himself a drink. And as he's in there, Kevin Spacey comes up behind him and like wraps his arms around him, like gives him like a hug from behind.
Oh my God.
And or like puts his hand on his leg in the living room. And my buddy was like, or this guy was like pushing the hand away, and then he goes into the kitchen, and then Kevin Spacey comes in and gives him like a hug. And he's like, "Whoa," and like pushes him, I think, and was like, "Not into it, no thanks." Like, kind of drew a hard line,
Yeah.
which is, I think, what you should do. And
Yeah, I mean, if you can.
I want to say they said Kevin Spacey was like pretty high and maybe a little drunk, but like went upstairs or went into their apartment, one of the bedrooms, and like went in there and locked the door.
Oh, he
And
jerked off.
well, I don't know. It was like, apparently they said he was crying, and then he wrote by hand a letter to my friend's roommate, like kind of like saying, expressing his feelings. I don't know, but like they didn't fucking save the letter. That's the kicker. Is that like, I'm like, "Dude, why do you not have this letter?" And they're like, "I don't." My buddy
Frame
was,
it. Like,
yeah.
what the fuck?
So yeah. So again, I probably don't have all the details right, but like this is a story that
It lines up.
it lines up. And this is a story that I heard in 1997 and have been telling ever since. And then of course all of this shit comes out about Kevin Spacey and his tendency to like sexually assault, especially
And to
young
do
men.
that specific thing, like in the documentary, there were several men who said that like his abuse of them started with him like either wanting to give them a massage and then sort of hugging them from behind and then being able to like feel his boner, or him just hugging them from behind and being able to feel his boner. Like this is like one of the ways that he like first like senses whether or not somebody will be like quiet about abuse, basically. Like, he does that, and if they're like all over the place, like, hey, don't do that, he's like, well, calm down, like, it's fine. Or he gets really emotional, like you said, and he's like crying and making such a big deal out of it that the other person starts to feel bad.
Yeah.
Like,
so fucked up. I mean, this documentary is basically just a bunch of like sit down interviews with several of his victims. And I want to say there's a reporter that gets interviewed who broke the story about Kevin Spacey and his sexual assault on the set of House of Cards that ended that series, basically, or especially ended his participation in it. But she said she talked to like 200 people and only 10 of them would go on the record for the story. So, I mean, this is a epidemic of assault. I mean, he's just a madman doing this to people.
He's like unique almost, and like not that like other people who do assault aren't like this, but like in terms of like Weinstein, for example, he threatened people, certainly physically threatened people with his like gigantic fucking horrible body, and he also threatened their careers, and he also blacklisted people and stuff like that. Kevin Spacey like is a physical threat to people. Like, we know for a fact that I think 3, maybe 4 of the men who accused him and went to court about it have mysteriously died.
Oh, really?
Suicide, or they just found dead in their apartment. Like, this is a real thing. Like, the people who had the most evidence against him, who were taking him to court publicly and like using their names and not being anonymous, like 3 or 4 of them have died mysteriously.
What the fuck? I didn't know that.
And that has always fucking scared the shit out of me. And then seeing in the documentary, there was 2 things that really fucked me up. The first one was the fact that Kevin Spacey's dad had like their whole house, and they really like, I wish they would have talked about this more in the documentary. The fucking house was covered in like swastikas.
Yeah.
In like Hitler memorabilia, like just like all over the house. Like,
well,
if you walk in the
he
house,
had the mustache. His dad, there's a picture of the dad that they show. Kevin Spacey's dad, like, literally is trying to look like Hitler.
He is obsessed with Hitler, like obsessed to a degree that's insane. And he just kind of said that and like didn't say anything else about it. So I don't really know what the deal is, but like clearly that was not a very good house for a child to live in, I imagine.
You see his brother too, who his brother seems like a gay man as well.
Yeah.
So it's like you got like Nazi dad and then 2 sensitive queer sons.
I mean, sensitive. One of them is sensitive.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, like, sensitive as like an artist, I guess, is what I was thinking.
Sure.
And like, there's a part of me that's like, oh God, I guess poor like Kevin the boy never had a chance.
Yeah, I mean, same with any serial killer, any serial rapist. It's like every single one of them was abused as a child. It's just 100% of the time.
But not everybody who is abused as a child turns out to be a fucking serial rapist or sexual assailant. You know,
absolutely.
So it's like, it's complicated.
Depends on the person. It's complicated. The other thing in that documentary that scared the shit out of me was a story that somebody told about Kevin Spacey hitting on them, doing the boner hug thing, and him being like, I'm not into that. But he was like an aspiring actor. And then Kevin Spacey was like, okay, you're not into that. No problem. Would you like to go see a movie as friends? And he was like, okay, cool. Maybe I can have a relationship with Kevin Spacey that isn't fucked up. So they go see Saving Private Ryan.
Oh my God.
And if you've seen Saving Private Ryan, you definitely vividly remember the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, which is like some of the most gruesome, horrifying shit I've ever seen in a movie. Like, it haunts me to this day.
So yeah, it's actually like a famous sequence in cinema history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's this opening assault on Omaha Beach on D-Day in World War II that even people who were on that beach who survived that massacre, that battle, like, have watched it and said like that's exactly what it was like. It was like horrifyingly vivid in its detail.
Yeah, horrifying. And Kevin Spacey, while watching this movie, the intro scene, this famous scene, busts out his dick and jerks off to completion, comes to that scene. Watching that scene, this guy said his eyes were on the screen the whole time, watching that beginning scene, and he jerked off to completion in the theater.
I thought you said it was D-Day. Get it? Anyway, I mean, it's so fucked up. It's like, I don't even know what do you say to that?
What do you say to that?
Just like, the guy's messed up. I mean,
the guy's like messed up to the degree of like it not even being, I mean, it is about power, but he's like a psychopath. Like, I'm pretty sure he's killed minimum 3 homeless people. Like, he is a crazy person.
Yeah, he's got like that chip missing. And the thing too that I thought was fascinating, the part of the documentary that I watched, is that there was a guy that they talked to in the doc who met Kevin Spacey when he was at Juilliard, or just out of Juilliard, the acting school in New York, like this elite acting school. And Kevin Spacey assaulted him. So like, the point is that this shit was happening before he got famous.
Early.
And then I think getting rich and famous was an accelerant and just made him even more deranged and aggressive.
More access to victims, and like, gave him more power, made him feel like he was invincible, you know, all that shit.
So fucked up.
So fucking insane.
I don't know, man. So he's broke, and I'm sure he's probably still got lawsuits that he's got to fend off. But I want to say, like, didn't he tell Piers Morgan that he's trying to restart his acting career?
Yeah,
fucking people are delusional. Like, no. But I want to say too that I read something that you sent me. Like, doesn't he have friends in Hollywood who are trying to help him get back into the game?
Yeah, for sure.
If I'm their agents, like, I think it's Sharon Stone, and I forget who it is. Maybe it's not Sharon Stone. I don't want to talk out of turn, but if you're an actor and you're going to put your name on Kevin Spacey, after all of this shit goes out into the public arena,
I would drop them if I were their agent.
I would grab them by the lapels and tell them to fucking knock it off. Like, dude, it's career suicide. Like, why would you?
I would say, I'm leaving, hire a crisis PR agency. Like, that's like, why the fuck would you ever do that? Like, it is so, and like, I think it's probably, just if I have to guess, on some level driven by the fact that he's like a name that for so long, if he was attached to a script, that script would get made, you know, and it would become a classic film. It would become a great film.
Typically,
and like
often, not always.
Not always, but often. And like, there are probably a lot of fucking directors who are like, damn, this role would be perfect for Kevin Spacey, but they can't do it because their movie would be fucked. And if he somehow had a redemption arc, which, like, if anyone's not going to have a redemption arc, it is Kevin Spacey. Like, there is just no way in hell. Like, it's just not going to happen. But if he did, I think directors and other actors would be stoked because they would get paid a lot more money for a movie that Kevin Spacey is in, and it would potentially be popular in their minds because it once was. But that's never going to happen.
He's never getting back to where he was. He's not even going to get back onto a major movie. There's no way. If he
does a movie, it's like gonna be like the biggest flop ever.
Or it'll be something that's filmed like overseas, sort of like Woody Allen was getting all of his financing in the later stages of his career from like French financiers because they don't care about his like sexual indiscretions or something.
The French are so fucked.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's 13. That's fine.
Yeah,
13. It's the age of consent in France. Did you know that? 13.
Yeah, I mean,
Kevin
I think it's,
Spacey's
but I mean, like, you look at what, Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, Woody Allen. Not everybody who is in Hollywood at a high level is a fucking sociopath, but there's a lot of fucking sociopaths who make it to the top in that business. Like, it says something about the business
Power
itself.
corrupts. Like, you give those people so much, a famous person has so much fucking power. So much more power than like an artist who is not at that level. Like, it is insane. And you just give a normal person that kind of power, if they have any sort of inclination to be a psychopath, like, it'll just come out.
Or it's out, but then it just gets like, it's like on steroids, but it
just gets amplified.
It also makes me wonder if like having like sociopathology and like this kind of cold-bloodedness and this sort of like dead-eyed, I don't give a fuck about other people is actually usable. Like, it's a virtue almost in Hollywood, because the business, like, this is the theory of the case that I have. And I think I've even said this before in other episodes of my show, where I'm like, if the people at the top are this way, and for my whole adult life, essentially, Harvey Weinstein was the top, especially in like the cultural echelons of filmmaking.
He grabbed my ass.
Did he?
He literally did.
He grabbed my ass too.
I hope you're not being serious.
No, I'm not being serious. But the point is that if you won an Oscar in 1998, 2008, even
Thank
like
you, Harvey
2000.
Weinstein.
You gotta fucking get into one of Harvey's films. And so he was the top, and he was who everyone was looking to. And same with Scott Rudin, who's another guy who's like got like behavior problems, like not sexual assault as far as I know, but just like a temper
Abuse.
and just
Right, yeah.
abusive behavior. And you know, if that's the
It
top and that's setting the example, then everybody underneath them is naturally going to be influenced by it. And it creates a culture that is toxic and indecent at a human level.
And you know what, Brad? I hate to say it, but that's every industry also.
Is it
That's like,
though? Is it?
it kind of is. If like just having done like 9 to 5 office jobs, like, you know, as a woman in like male dominated jobs like that, especially, like the way that you get to the top is by being power hungry and being like somebody who is doesn't care about moral issues, only cares about money making issues, only cares about how to gain more power, essentially. That is how you become successful in business. It just is. All of the people who are the richest in the world are that way because they have a serious lack of morals and a serious willingness to do horrific shit to other people, and a desire to do that even when they weren't yet successful. That's like when people say you're hungry, like that's what they mean. They mean power hungry, but they don't want to say that. So they just say, I want somebody who's hungry, you know, like at a job. I want somebody who's like wants it, who's going to hustle, who's hungry, who's power hungry. That's what that means.
Well, I think what I would say, I'd push back a little bit and say that there are probably some businesses that have healthier cultures than others.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
I mean, there's exceptions for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like, but Hollywood, because it's fame plus money, like lots of money, and lots of money
The fame aspect is really, huge.
It creates like maybe a more hyper toxic and hyper competitive culture than there would be in, say, like insurance,
Yeah. Well, insurance maybe is about it, but like it's a different kind of competitiveness too, where it's like you have to be attractive and charming, and like people have to like you. It's like
and the
it's
stakes are high, stakes are high because if you win huge, right? You get all the fame and the money and the sex and the love and the whatever.
But if you lose, then you're a famous person who doesn't have the money to sustain a famous person lifestyle.
Yeah, and I think too. I think the overarching point is that it just starts at the top. So if a business culture is healthy, it's because the people at the top are cool and have like a decent set of like moral values.
Yeah. And they're constantly working to make sure that it stays that way.
Yeah. So I just think that there are systemic problems. It's like, right. And maybe this is just going to always be the case when there's power at stake with human beings, like communities of human beings, that there are going to be some bad apples that can rise to the top and can create toxicity that sort of infects the whole system.
Yeah. The system's also kind of designed to allow that, like to, I don't know, create that. Like power corrupts, absolutely.
And maybe sometimes people sort of like it. It's weird, I think people sort of knew that Harvey was a tyrant. It was certainly kind of an open secret in Hollywood. I don't know if everybody knew the exact details, but everybody...
I mean, if I knew that he was a sex pest, then everyone did.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of... And like the same thing happened with Louis C.K. I remember a friend of mine telling me that he would like jerk off at parties in front of women and stuff. And like the sad thing was, we were both just like, whoa, that's weird. I think I thought he had a drinking problem. I was like, oh, he must have been hammered, like how embarrassing, like,
no.
But then it was like, no, he's actually like into this, and he's kind of like,
you think about it, and it's like, if you, for example, got blackout drunk, you would never whip out your dick and lock somebody in a room and jerk off. It's just like when you're drunk, it just makes your aspects of your personality like more obvious and bigger. And if being a sex pest is not part of your personality, it's not going to come out when you're drunk.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that would be a weird thing to do no matter how fucked up you are. But
yeah, it's like if you're like a normal person, you're not just going to like suddenly do a sexual assault when you're drunk.
So what do we think about Kevin Spacey? Because I got to say, there is a part of me, like maybe the most compassionate human part of me, that's like, this guy never had a chance. His dad was a fucking Nazi.
That's true.
He's a gay guy growing up with like Adolf Hitler wannabe as his dad, who was almost certainly abusive. His dad had to have been abusive.
Of course.
His brother seems really damaged, but sweet, but fundamentally sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's also interesting that his brother participated in the documentary.
I mean, I think that he like wants probably to show that like I'm not like my brother,
I guess.
you
Or maybe
know?
they're not on good terms, but
I mean, if he was in that documentary, I have to believe they aren't on good terms.
right,
Like,
right, right.
it was not a pro Kevin documentary. And I would say, like, yes, you're correct that he, like, really never stood a chance and had, like, a deeply abusive childhood. But the same could be said for Ted Bundy, or, like, Jeffrey Dahmer or any
Well,
number
or
of
Oprah
horrifying
Winfrey,
people.
or like
Or,
there
right,
are there are
exactly.
lots of people who have shitty childhoods and bad
Yes.
parents, and then they
Because,
don't turn out to be
right.
psychotic abusers.
Yeah, every abuser has been abused, but not everybody who has been abused is an abuser.
That's right. That's the line. So there's that part of me that feels for like the child Kevin, but I think maybe like there's a part of me that thinks like there's just something genetic here happening
Well, I
where
think
he's
there's
just
like
got the
childhood trauma just like stuck in his brain to a point where it might as well be genetic.
yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah, that's the question. Is it like does he have like some sort of psychopath gene that like
Well, is there a psychopath gene? I guess is a question that people have been asking for a really long time. And I would
yes.
say no,
I would say
because like
yes. I'm saying yes right now.
I would say no because every psychopath has stories of being abused and it's not always by somebody they're genetically related to, and that makes them abusers.
Here's why I will push back, and I just talked about this with Kimberly King Parsons on my show, but there is an article that I read that haunts me. Uh, it'll haunt me for the rest of my life, but it's about child psychopaths
Mm-hmm.
and these kids who like come out of the womb and they
Oh
just
yeah.
don't have any ounce of like care. Like they'll be like trying to stab
Yeah.
their sibling in the
Like
crib
we
and
need to talk about Kevin style shit.
like
Like
just don't give a fuck. They just can't care. It's like
I've
something
watched the movie
neurochemical.
yeah. I've watched the movie We Need to Talk About Kevin probably 10 times because like that idea freaks me out so much
Wait,
because
Kevin
like
Spacey? We need to talk about Kevin Spacey?
no. If you have the movie We Need to Talk About Kevin, it's like about like basically what you're saying, like a kid who is a psychopath and like
Uh,
how the parents deal with like this psychopathic child and how they I mean, I won't spoil the movie for anyone listening, but I cannot recommend it highly enough. It is like terrifying. And it is like about this idea that you could just have a child and that child has psychopathic tendencies and you could be a well-meaning parent and not know what to do with it. And then they end up doing something horrific.
yeah. So like
And I
they're out
do
of the
believe
chute. They're
that
born
like,
that way.
yeah, I do believe that that happens. School shooters specifically, like we know school shooters, generally speaking, aren't abused. They aren't victims of bullying, even generally. It's often the popular kids who are not victims of bullying or bullies themselves who end up doing this. And like that freaks the shit out of me because that is like usually a murder, a crime like that has motivation, right? We always talk about what's the motivation. We don't really understand what the motivation is for school shooters. For individual ones, they'll have manifestos like the Santa Barbara guy and like whatever that'll say why they're doing it. And often, sometimes it is, they're incels, they can't have sex, whatever it is. But a lot of times it's just some fucking kid and he just shoots up the school and you don't really understand why. And like that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Like not being able to have a cause or like Stephen Paddock. I think about Stephen Paddock
Wait, who's
way
that?
more often. That's healthy. He's the guy who shot all the people in Las Vegas from the Mandalay
Oh,
Bay.
Jesus.
Like
Yeah.
we have no zero motive. And like how the fuck did he get all those guns up there? And I mean like we know how he did, but like how did he get all of those? Like there's just so much missing in terms of motive there that like I do see your point that there's perhaps a small portion of people who just are psychopaths.
Yeah. They're just born like with a chip.
Like I don't think it's most of them, but I think there's probably a couple.
So the question is like, what's going on with Kevin Spacey? And it's like maybe some combination of like abusive childhood, abusive dad in childhood,
With a
weird.
dad that abusive and like a dad who is also a Nazi, I think you could maybe say both just because the dad is such a psychopath that probably like if it is genetic, he's got that gene.
That's what I was
But
going to say.
also it's like hard to separate like is it a gene that his dad gave him or is it all of the abuse that his dad gave him?
Right. Nature versus nurture.
Yeah, and then just like how his own brain reacts to that abuse because obviously his brother seems like not a psychopath.
Yeah.
And so that's like, maybe a genetic aspect of his brain. Maybe he was abused more than his brother. Like hard to say.
Right. So anyway, I haven't gotten to the end of it yet, but I just feel like it's like case closed. We know, I mean, anybody who watches this documentary would be hard pressed to make any kind of convincing case that Kevin Spacey is innocent of all this stuff.
Yeah. Or even a convincing argument that he is like safe enough to exist in public. Like I like think that he is like a danger to like anybody that he's around.
Yeah, he's just like so intense and like cold-blooded, you know, that's the word that comes to mind. And of course, like palling around with Bill Clinton, that's the part of it. Like
always.
I mean, right? Like Bill Clinton.
Anytime there's a psychopath, you can find a picture of them with Bill Clinton. He just like loves them.
Like a sexual, like someone who's got like a weird, like sexual, like
any sex pest, like Bill Clinton will just attract him like a magnet.
Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, Kevin Spacey, they're all in his like inner circle at some point. So fucked up. So anyway, that I think brings us to the conclusion of yet another episode of
ending on a positive note.
I mean, you know, we promise to come back strong with some love and light in the next episode, which will be happening, just as a reminder, on Thursday, as I test out this new schedule of 5 episodes a week, not of this show, but just Monday through Friday, I will be delivering content in the Otherppl podcast feed. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, it will be Brad and Mira for the Culture. So we will be coming back with a second episode this week on Thursday, and you can get it wherever you get your podcasts. Mira, it's good to see you. Good to talk with you. And I think I saw your dog a second ago.
Oh, yeah. Here, I'll show my dog again. Say goodbye.
Oh, my God.
Goodbye. Brad and Mira for the Culture. La, la, la.